All right, so thank you for having me today. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't be there as well. I actually was down in Naples giving a similar presentation this morning. So I'm just going to give you an overview of our response to red tide. As you heard, I'm the Division Director of Environmental Management, so I was charged with being the incident commander for our event last year. So I'm over the monitoring group, so that tied in very nicely with our response. So I'm going to kind of go over some of our challenges, the plan that we put in place. I have a video, so if make sure the sound is up, and some of our outcomes and recommendations for future. So some of our challenges, obviously Southwest Florida was experiencing a significant red tide bloom, but it typically stays south of us. It is not very common for red tide to move into Pinellas County. The last significant bloom we had was in 2005, 2006. And we do experience a pyridinium bahamense bloom within Tampa Bay pretty much on an annual basis. It doesn't usually cause issues, but it is there. So we knew the red tide was starting to move north. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission called and let us know that low levels of red tide were reported at our southernmost extent in one of our most popular parks, Fort DeSoto. At that point in time, I contacted University of South Florida in St. Petersburg. Their predictive modeling seemed to show that both the surface and subsurface currents were carrying Carina brevis north. They agreed, and that their prediction was that it was going to completely move north, and there would be a significant impact to Pinellas. So I was asked, by our administration, by our board of county commissioners, what was our plan? And, frankly, I said, I don't know what plan. We've never had a plan. The last red tide, it was kind of everyone for themselves. Our solid waste department waived tipping fees so that people could haul the fish there. But beyond that, there was really no comprehensive approach. And they asked that we switch gears and actually plan for a comprehensive response. So it took about 30 days basically to go from 0 to 60. And that meant from, literally having nothing on paper to having a plan, assignments, incident command assignments, locations of staging, monitoring, everything. 0 to 60, 30 days. So some of our challenges, well, we have 35 miles of beach and 14 coastal cities that have jurisdiction. So that took getting agreements in place, allowing us to perform work there. We also have a state park, which also we had to coordinate agreements with and allowing us to go into their property and do work. And then we have 3 county parks on the beach. We have an intercoastal waterway that spans 40 miles and 8 passes and inlets where water can come in and come out and bring the red tide and dead fish into our community, canals that would need managed. Of course, Tampa Bay was a concern. What happened if Carina brevis ended up coming up into the bay? And there was an ongoing federal beach renourishment project. So it's a $50 million project on the coastline that we needed to coordinate with a contractor and stay out of their way. In addition, we were kind of right in the midst of sea turtle nesting season. We were dealing with, public health concerns. A lot of people, complaining that they couldn't breathe, that they couldn't go out into the back, into their backyard. Obviously, the impacts to the environment and business impacts. You never like seeing that post right there. This was my view behind Treasure Island Publix. That's a grocery store here, and so we were getting a lot of frantic calls from business owners about how to deal with it. So this is a video that I'm going to play now. Kind of gives an overview of our response.
We can't hear it. Can you turn it up?
Communities. Our beaches have remained open. Major events have been held as scheduled. Residents and visitors have enjoyed
As loud as you can make it.
That's because Pinellas County saw what was coming and got ready.
Let me see if I can turn it up a little louder. I think I'm up.
Those initial efforts were to contact all of our beach cities and start talking to them about where we might stage equipment within their jurisdiction and stage it long term if we needed to, where we might have dumpsters, who would we be coordinating with.
With a plan in place, county secured emergency state funding to implement cleanup efforts, and we set a new goal. First, to prevent as many dead fish as possible from reaching land, and second, collect those that got through as quickly as we could. Our contractor hired local guides and fishermen whose businesses have been hurt by red tide.
When it comes to the waterway cleanups, it can range from a 18-foot flat bottom skiff john boat to get any of the shallows and around the docks, to inshore and offshore shrimp boats working with the nets off the side with outriggers, just dragging, skimming the surface waters, collecting any of the floaters that are out there.
To clean up public shorelines, the county deployed hand crews and beach rakes. We also provided dumpsters where residents and workers quickly disposed of dead fish.
The Environmental Management Division within the Public Works Department has done a fabulous job. Kelli Levy and the rest of the team have basically been the drivers behind all the success we've had, and working with the contractor that we have and the municipal partners, which without them we couldn't get this done. They've done a fabulous job.
To better track and respond to fish kill reports, staff worked with our GIS team to develop a web-based app for citizens to report large fish kills.
Prioritize who's going to go respond to those and put eyes on them prior to dispatching a contractor.
Pinellas County Red Tide response has been a cross-department effort.
We have staff go out every morning, make an assessment of the beach conditions relating to whether there are dead fish present, if we've got discolored water or aerosols present. We report to our incident command team in environmental management.
Tourism is a $10 billion a year industry in Pinellas County, so it's critical that our visitors have the best experience possible. Pinellas County's proactive approach has kept the emphasis on the beauty of our beaches.
I've talked with people all over the state from tourism marketing, and everyone's asking me, how did Pinellas County know to do that? But what were they doing that was so different? Because this made big difference. It has mitigated so much of what we would have had to deal with from a marketing perspective.
So what happens to all the fish and animals that fall victim to red tide?
Pinellas County is proud about how we handle our waste here for red tide loads. We have two options for disposal. If the red tide is harvested or collected from offshore, we can take it to our waste to energy facility. If it's collected from beaches, we can bring it here to our landfill. We bury it immediately. That helps mitigate any odors.
In November, Pinellas County had disposed of more than 1,700 tons of red tide-related debris. Throughout the response, we've put residents and visitors first. We've helped our beachgoers know which beaches are the best to visit. Reports are posted regularly at pinellascounty.org/redtide and beachesupdate.com. We've even worked with NOAA and other agencies to develop a tool that uses wind forecasts to predict respiratory irritation at different beaches.
I've gone through a lot of red tide outbreaks, one we've ever had, and this is the best response the county has ever made to helping the beaches out here.
In Pinellas County, we're doing things to keep our beaches beautiful.
So, just some of our outcomes. We actually, once FWC notified us that they had counted low concentrations of Corynea brevis in our waters, we started actually a daily monitoring program. Unfortunately, once a week is just not sufficient to be able to understand what is going on from a response perspective. So then, kind of serendipitously, somebody had shared our Facebook page where we were reporting out our concentrations on a daily basis to NOAA, who is working on a respiratory forecast tool for harmful algal blooms. And unfortunately, the tool requires at least every 48-hour reporting in order to be accurate. And once they found our data, they started kind of plugging it in manually. and then contacted us and asked us if we wanted to kind of be their pilot project. And so we started working with Dr. Rick Stump from NOAA and Dr. Barb Kirkpatrick from GCUS to produce this tool. And we also started using their HAB scope. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with HAB scope, but basically we are doing manual counts as traditional, as you would normally. And then the HAB scope actually is an algorithm-driven unit. You put a live sample in there, and it attaches to an iPod, and it counts the cells and estimates them that way. So, we were doing both manual counts and the HAB scope counts so that we could manually upload that to the GCUS and NOAA group so that they could produce the respiratory forecast tool, and that was live on an app that you could use on your phone or on your computer. By the end of the event, we had collected, over, 965 samples. I said reported the same day. We had 8 volunteer monitors to supplement our staff. Obviously, we're still doing our day job, and this was kind of an added responsibility. So 8 volunteers kind of came in and helped us get those samples collected early in the morning. Communications and outreach, I heard one of the other speakers mention Facebook. We were on Facebook like so many times per day. I think folks were getting sick of hearing from us. We were reporting beach condition index twice a day, severe impact areas whenever possible to try to keep people out of that area so that our operations could go on. And of course, in the afternoon we were posting pretty much an operations report that included the Carina brevis monitoring results, as well as our operational activities for the day. Our operations were about 3 months. We started in September when it was a really big hit in St. Petersburg Beach. If you've ever been there, the Don Cesar, it's a big pink hotel that sits right on the beach. It's a historic hotel, and they had hundreds of thousands of dead fish wash up there, and that was the incident that started the event cleanup for us. We worked with our GIS group to produce the app that you saw in the video, as well as a dumpster location app, because we had a lot of people who were doing kind of their own cleanup and businesses that wanted to keep their areas clean. And so, we kept this dumpster app uploaded and maintained daily so that they knew where they could take materials. We removed nearly 1,900 tons of marine debris. We received a $7.5 million grant for our contracted cleanup efforts. We spent about $6.8 million. And we now have a formal red tide response plan in place as part of our emergency management response plan. The recommendations that we had, one, we couldn't have done what we did, not just our partner local governments, but all of these state and federal agencies and academic institutions who really helped us be more responsive. It was the modeling, it was the sampling, it was a lot of the work that was being done, locally, but also at NOAA up in Maryland, who provided us with, pretty much daily satellite imagery to help us understand what was going on. And even the Coast Guard kind of going up and flying, giving us an idea of where the bloom was and what direction it was coming. There were just lines and lines of dead fish out there that were just headed our way. And with that aerial information, we could deploy the boats out there and be more responsive. The one thing about red tide is it's like the storm that keeps on giving. We had Irma in 2017, and it comes through and it creates a lot of damage, but once it's gone, and you put your plan in place, you clear roads, you get things fixed up, you get the power back on, you get people to work, you get people to school. But this is just was something new every single day. It started with the bait fish and the smaller fish species that were dying, and then there were days where the whole beach was covered in coral, and it just was, from a biology perspective, it was horrifying but incredible at the same time to be able to see all of the species that were impacted. Communicate early and often. We used a multimedia approach. The media was pretty much my best friend by the end of this. I pretty much did about 20 different media responses a day, and then used this type of incident as momentum to leapfrog. Right now everybody is so sensitive to red tide that any little thing they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And in one way it's okay, guys, calm down, but in another way it's an opportunity. They're ready for the messages, guys, watching your fertilizer, don't use, remember it's a ban period right now, June 1st, October. No fertilizers allowed, remember that. Getting people to respond to our message is a lot easier right now. We had a big red tide summit in March. Over 300 people showed up, and we had a wait list that we couldn't meet. People really wanted to know about it, wanted to hear about it. And this is an in-house PSA that we produced coming up here, just 30 seconds. We're playing it in the movie theaters right now.
Grass clippings, leaves, and pet waste you send down the gutter. It feeds, grows, and spreads, attacking our lakes, the bay, and Gulf, polluting the water and feeding algae blooms.
Stormwater flows to the bays and Gulf. Keep leaves and grass clippings on your lawn and pick up after your pets.
Don't feed the beast.
So this is our team Red Tide. We have fun with Wordles. When you're working 7 days a week for months, you get really tired, so you start doing little things like this. And with that, thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions for Kelli?
I have one. How is it working with tourism? Do you get calls? Do you report to them every day, or they just understand?
How do you get the word to the tourists?
I think I heard, how do you get the word to the tourists?
Yes.
Well, we were working hand in hand with our Convention and Visitors Bureau. So they had actually created a special page on their website where they were posting pretty much all the information I gave them, as well as beach updates. There were days where I was fielding a lot of questions from tourists. I felt like a travel agent for quite a while. I actually helped a woman move her wedding to another location. She was like planning a wedding right in Treasure Island, right at like the hot spot of red tide. So we got her wedding moved. So we did what we could, but our Convention and Visitors Bureau was really great about keeping their website updated with our information so that people could make decisions. And we were really promoting the respiratory forecast tool, to direct people if it was just a really bad day, and the respiratory forecast tool showed like every coastal location, which is bright red, respiratory is really bad conditions. They were just promoting other things, like the Salvador Dali Museum or the Holocaust Museum, or, one of the other inland, museums or other activities away from the coast.
Kelli, I was wondering if your response plan now includes sort of a memorandum of understanding or something that coordinates actions among all your different municipalities? You don't have to set that up?
If I heard it correctly, it's like a memorandum of understanding between all the cities, the Red Tide response plan. Basically, our Red Tide response plan does include all the cities, but we would still go back, each event and renew what was called a right of entry. Basically, the mayor, I asked for it and I got it. It wasn't a difficult thing to do, but it just took, getting the document prepared by the attorneys, and some of the attorneys wanted some language changes, but at the end of the day, they're, if another event were to happen this year, then, I'd have to get another right of entry from all of the cities because the old one has expired. But that document is in our file, it's in our Red Tide response plan. So if by chance I win the lottery and I move to Fiji, you know, it's there and somebody else knows how to deal with it.
Great, thank you.